My name is Mike Perry. I work for, my day job anyways is at Riverbed Technology. Right now we make network acceleration devices, and we're doing a pretty good job at kicking Cisco's ass. So we're looking for, short plug, we're looking for reverse engineers, C++ developers, QA, fuzzers. If you like working with networks and you won't like making them faster, come talk to me afterwards and we can try and hook you up with the job. We're looking for pretty much everybody. My affiliation with the Tor project, I'm basically a volunteer. I do this stuff after hours in my free time because I really think that privacy and anonymity are very important. So mostly from a IP address obfuscation perspective, just basic data hygiene is my main motivation, but obviously also interested in helping whistleblowers and people in other countries who are censored, or even people in this country who are censored, whose speech is censored. Okay, so to start off, we'll give you an overview of what Tor is from the ground up. Basically, it's a volunteer network for privacy, anonymity, and censorship resistance. From a user perspective, basically what you have is a SOX proxy. For those of you who are not familiar, SOX 4A and 5, it also speaks SOX 4. When you configure your applications to use this proxy that appears on localhost, the connections that your applications use are converted into, in Tor parlance, what are called streams. These streams are multiplexed over what Tor calls circuits, which are essentially paths through the network. These circuits then are in turn multiplexed and shared with other clients' routes over the node-to-node SSL TLS connections. A circuit consists of 3 nodes. You have the guard, the relay, and exit. Each one of those has somewhat special properties, which we'll be elaborating on later. This is essentially what a path through Tor looks like. Now the top diagram has 2 circuits, 2 clients that have chosen paths through Tor. I'm trying to illustrate with the 2 separate clients the circuit over TLS connection multiplex at the guard to relay position. Basically between the internodes, as I said, these circuits are multiplexed, and an external adversary shouldn't be able to differentiate individual circuits at that position. In the second client, the green client, you have a client that's making a couple of TCP connections to his Tor proxy, and these are being multiplexed over the same circuit, sharing the TLS connection again with the red client, and then at the exit node, where you emerge back onto the plain unencrypted internet, or your internet connection, the streams are split off again into their individual TCP connections. And to illustrate how it is that the guard doesn't know the exit node that you have chosen, that your client has chosen for its path, the bottom diagram shows the circuit extension properties of Tor. Essentially, nodes publish public-private keys in the Tor directory, or public keys in the Tor directory that your client uses to negotiate first the TLS connection to the first hop, then a secret key to that node to build the first hop of its circuit. It then instructs that node X, in this case, to extend to the relay node Y, and using the public key Y has published for its onion routing key, it extends to Y, and then repeats the process to Z, at which point it can finally instruct Z to make TCP connections according to Z that are accepted by Z's exit policy, which is essentially the set of IPs and ports that the Z or exit node will willingly connect to. So the talk is securing the Tor network. So I think in order to really secure something, you have to understand how an attacker is going to go about attacking it. And in order to do that, it is helpful to sort of break down the classes of attack and the vulnerability points of the network. So I've categorize these attacks in sort of two dimensions. First, we have the class, and then later in the next slide, we'll talk about the position. The class breakdown is essentially the passive versus the active attacker. The passive attacker is going to be one who is just observing your traffic, doing things like timing correlation, as was talked about this morning in the timing panel, fingerprinting of traffic usage, doing things like trying to figure out what a fetch of a particular Wikipedia page looks like when it's encrypted and tunneled over a Tor circuit. Another passive attack is an intersection attack, taking multiple arbitrary attributes of a user and combining them and narrowing in on them using like location, if they reveal where they work, or if they reveal other key details about themselves that can be used to narrow in. All these don't require any sort of active manipulation of the network. The next class are those attacks that do. These include things like running a node, lying about its bandwidth to get more traffic. Right now, the node choice that you saw in the previous diagram for the network, the node choice is weighted by the advertised bandwidth of what those nodes essentially say that they can carry and that they are carrying, and it's possible to lie and attract more traffic. Along with this, nodes can also essentially fail those circuits that are created through those hops to bias the node selection so that they can manipulate the paths by failing the ones that they don't like, and also modifying application layer traffic at the exit, inserting plugins, application layer attacks like that, maybe even exploiting the browser. And we'll cover all of these in greater detail as we go on. Right now, just trying to give examples of these categories. An internal adversary is one that's a node operator. They're able to look inside the node and differentiate individual circuits, like the individual circuits that are relaying through the node. And at the exit node, they can also differentiate determine which streams apply to which particular circuits. So they are able to get that level of detail as well. So they're able to see the multiplexing that went on at the client end, essentially. An external adversary is one that's observing the Tor network from outside. These TLS connections, you presume that they cannot see inside the circuit level multiplexing. This is something that might occur at ISP or global level. I believe, although this is still an open research question, I believe that if you were running a Tor node and you're rate limiting it to a fixed rate, so long as you are constantly carrying traffic at that approximate rate, this sort of adversary is frustrated to some degree. I would think a large degree, but obviously we don't know. Solid research hasn't been done, but likely frustrated to at least some degree by running Tor as both a node and a client. So if you run a Tor node, that's where the idea would come from, that you are increasing your anonymity or your privacy by at least frustrating to some degree this sort of adversary. So in this diagram, I've tried to outline basically all the different points that Tor can be attacked, which, as you can see, is pretty much everywhere, except for the TLS connections in between the individual nodes. Those may be vulnerable for very long-lived RSA keys. All the Tor keys are 1024-bit RSA currently, so some of the nodes are getting up there in age. I think some of them may be several years old. That may become a concern in a few years, but right now the assumption is that those links are solid. But going from right to left, basically we have, or left to right, your left to right, you have surveillance and confiscation at the client. Now this is a danger for people in countries where Tor and other security tools are illegal. Bypassing censorship filters can get you in trouble. I believe Germany just recently had some scary legislation that may or may not is vague enough that it's indeterminate whether it applies to tools like Tor. So maybe these things can be used as justification to seize a computer and look at its history, for example, or the browser cache to see where you've been. So that's an obvious attack. Another one would be where the user were to mistakenly use Tor, misconfigure it in some way. Probably the most common way would be to use the SOX 4 as opposed to 4A or 5 mechanism, which basically this just means that you're not asking Tor to do DNS for you. So your DNS queries are then going to leak over onto the local network and give away information about you, where you're going. The active network attacks start to come in at the next hop between the client and the guard node. This is where adversaries can do things like bias your guard node choice or entirely block Tor. They can make sure that for your first hop you're only able to connect to a particular guard and that they control. Then they can move on to the active circuit failure attacks that I briefly mentioned earlier. Now, basically what this would involve is the guard node that they control then says, okay, well, there's an extend to the client that I want to observe the traffic, tried to extend to a relay node. Do I like this relay node? Is it one of my colluding evil peers, or is it not? If it is, then they can allow that circuit to be made. Otherwise, they can just fail that circuit and continue to do so until a relay node that they like is chosen. That relay node could then potentially repeat this process at the exit node until an exit node that is malicious is chosen to basically capture the entire path. And you can cut out the middleman in here as well. That's why I don't know if you can see it that easily on this diagram, but that's a dashed line. If you can find a side channel between the guard and the exit node, such as timing information may be sufficient. May be also possible to do clever things like XOR a protocol field that only your colluding exit nodes then would undo. So if your colluding exit node wouldn't undo this protocol field and cause the digest not to fail, then that circuit will fail. So all the good exit nodes will just naturally say something like this: digest doesn't match, and then fail to extend it. That sort of thing may be possible. Going further to the right is application layer attacks. Essentially, these are things where the adversary is going to do things like insert traffic to insert a cookie to tag you, or insert a plugin that's known to bypass proxy settings and is going to connect directly to their server, or do some sort of man-in-the-middle on SSL, or the server itself can try and insert similar malicious content. At the bottom, you can see the timing attacks are another dangerous attack. Research has shown that in simulation, essentially 95 to 99% ability to correlate, or 99.9% ability to correlate the entry into the network to a stream that's exiting the network. Recently at PET 2007, Stephen Murdoch presented a variation on this attack where sampling information was used. So you don't necessarily need the whole stream. You can just probabilistically sample from the traffic stream and then get a rough approximation of the rate of traffic going through there, and use that to